Episode 2 of the Americas is called Mexico, and obviously it deals with the country of Mexico. I feel like I should be wearing a sombrero for this, or something. That might get cut. So this episode starts off in the north of Mexico, in the Sonoran Desert, and we open up with cactuses. I mean, the cactuses are pretty impressive. I mean, they are the thing you think of when you think of the Sonoran Desert, and we focus on cactus pygmy owls, these little owls that live in the cactus. We see this female's got 3 chicks, and the chicks are basically fledgling. That's basically what we follow. We see there's a lot of predators there. So the islets have got to be kind of be careful. So the first 2 islets get away, no bother. One of them lands on the ground, so there's the potential for a rattlesnake to get it. But ultimately, the 3 islets are alright by the end of the sequence. I kind of felt like with that, there was no real threat. Like, I knew the rattlesnakes were there. I feel like in reality the rattlesnakes weren't near where the owls actually were. That was very much done in the editing room. It's an alright way of opening the episode. And again, it wasn't an animal I'd seen before, so that was quite cool. So yeah, I did like that. Then we focus on the Sea of Cortez, which is between the Baja Peninsula and mainland Mexico. And we see there's a lot of animals here. We get a little brief snippets of things like blue whales, seals and everything. It's very good. I mean, there's a lot of really good shots there. The main thing we focus on though is orcas, particularly orcas hunting dolphins, bottlenose dolphins. So the only real way I've seen that before is on Instagram, to be honest. I've never actually seen it in a documentary, so that was something I was actually looking forward to. I'd heard this was going to be in the series, and that was really cool. So what was really interesting about that sequence was that it was filmed from the orca's perspective, considering they're hunting an animal like a bottlenose dolphin, which is pretty much beloved by most people. I mean, I think most people around the world like dolphins. I mean, you think of dolphins, you think of bottlenose dolphins. It would be a really easy one to show you it from the dolphins' perspective and make the orcas the villains, because they usually are the villains in these sequences. But no, we get it from the orca's perspective, and you're given a reason to care about the orcas, because you're shown this calf, and it talks about how, you know, this calf is not going to be able to suckle for much longer, it's going to eat meat, and they eat dolphins, so you're kind of on the orca side from the get-go. And the hunt is pretty cool. I kind of feel like I could have gone for it being a bit longer. Like, you kind of feel like it was a bit snippety, like you got snippets of the dolphin jumping away from the orcas. There wasn't a lot of underwater footage there. I feel like I've seen better orca hunts filmed, but it was actually pretty cool, considering it's something I've never seen before in a documentary like this. And really, when you're watching something on Instagram, it's not exactly like it's, you know, more than 30 seconds. And really, the sequence didn't last much more than that, I didn't think. It was still pretty cool to see. And you didn't feel like it was an easy catch either. The dolphin is pretty big. I mean, bottlenose dolphins are quite large animals, and they're not that much smaller than the orca, to be honest. I mean, small enough to get hunted by them pretty easily, but still pretty cool. And the fact that you see the calf going after the dolphin as well was quite interesting. You usually don't see the calves get involved in the hunts too often, so that was quite cool. And ultimately, they do get the dolphin. You don't see the actual, you know, them butchering the dolphin and taking it apart. You didn't need to see that, because again, people like dolphins. So probably more than they like orcas. So that was something I think was fine. But yeah, overall that sequence was good. I mean, again, I feel like it maybe could have been better, but to be honest with you, I've never seen it before, and as it's the first time I've ever seen that in a series like this, I was happy with it. So yeah, I did enjoy that. Then we focus on blue-footed boobies, and as Tom Hanks says, they are pretty much one of the best named birds on the planet. I think every high school boy knew that name and thought it was pretty funny. I feel like they're an animal you see quite a lot, but you don't really see them doing very much very often. So this was actually cool to see them doing something. It was basically males and females courting, but you see the females kind of getting led astray by another male, and the original male has to scare that one off. We do tend to think of birds, and I think in particular seabirds as being, like, you know, really monogamous, they mate for life and everything, but in reality, sometimes they do stray a little bit further from the nest, much like some humans do. So I think that was interesting. I think that was cool. Again, it wasn't a sequence that I think will stay with me forever, but it was alright. I did enjoy it. And then we move further south to the forested areas. Most of Mexico actually is forest. I think when we think of Mexico, we tend to think of the Sonoran Desert. We don't tend to think of the actual, you know, jungles and the woodlands. So the rest of this episode does focus on that habitat, which is the majority of Mexico. And here we see a lot of orchids in the forest. We see orchid bees. The orchid bee stuff was alright. We basically see bees pollinating orchids, and in turn getting like a little scent that they can use to attract mates. We see one bee that's going off to use a dead bee to get its scent, but the bee that we focus on persists and gets the orchid and gets his reward. Again, another fine sequence that I will probably forget at some point, but as it stands, it was alright. And then the rest of the episode takes place in the Yucatan Peninsula, which I think we've all heard of, but I don't really know that many people know what it is. This was basically one of the Maya strongholds. There's a lot of Maya ruins in there. We see spider monkeys for a bit. They're fine. The main part of that sequence though is when you get to the motmot. These are these birds that nest in colonies beside these massive little pools. I can't remember what he calls them. There is a specific Mexican name for them that I've forgotten. But this was basically what fueled the Mayan Empire. Because there's no rivers and lakes in the Yucatan Peninsula, the Mayans relied on these pools to gain water. And they also thought they were like portals to the underworld. And then of course we dive into them and we explore the caves. We explore this in Planet Earth and I think other series. But I mean, it is pretty cool. I mean, I like seeing caves. As I said in my reviews for the Planet Earth, in the cave episode, I think cave stuff's really cool and we don't get enough of it in these series. So I'm glad we got a good portion of them here. Just them exploring the caves were really cool. The remipede, that was really cool. This little arthropod that's been remained unchanged for like millions and millions of years. Like, it's probably been unchanged since before the time of the dinosaurs. That was really cool. So I liked all the cave stuff there. And then we explored the mangroves. Again, another habitat I like. I always like mangrove stuff. We see little snippets of things there, like crocodiles, like manatees, stuff like that. We see jaguars in the mangroves. I kind of figured jaguars would pop up in the series. I don't think it would be in this episode. I figured it would be maybe be in like the Central American episode or the Amazon one. I presume there's going to be episodes in those. I don't actually know the episode order for the series. And the episode didn't really touch on the jaguars enough, I think. Considering you don't see them in this habitat very often. You saw like a jaguar cub briefly. They didn't touch on that at all. I think while the footage of the Jaguars was great, we didn't spend a lot of time with them. So I'd like to see more of the Jaguars, but to be honest with you, if that's all the Jaguar stuff we get in the series, the shots were very good at least, so I did like that. And we ended the episode talking about like the Day of the Dead, the culture of Mexico, and then we related that with monarch butterflies, which return from Canada on their migration. We've seen this before in Life and I think other series, but it's usually them migrating the other way, like from Mexico to Canada. We see them basically kind of hibernating, or at least in a state of torpor during the night, where it's really cold and one male falls to the bottom and he's got to climb his way back up to get some sunlight to heat up so they can continue foraging. That was alright. I liked how that was related to the Mexican culture, because people believe, or at least did believe, that monarch butterflies were actually spirits from the dead because they returned every year. That was cool. I like that. And that's kind of how they end the episode. And so yeah, this episode, I did enjoy it. I think I preferred it to last week, but I kind of have a similar feeling to it, wherein I don't think that I'm going to remember a lot of the footage in it. For me, the highlight was the orcas and the dolphins, though I think that probably could have been filmed a bit better, but it was still good. I also really like the cave stuff. I mean, cave stuff's cool. I mean, I always like cave stuff, so that was another highlight. But yeah, again, most of the stuff here was alright. As I say, it's probably better than last week, but not much better. It basically is round about the same, to be honest with you. But yeah, overall, it's still good. So yeah, what did you think of this episode? What were your highlights? Let me know in the comments below. I'll do the next one next week, whatever it is. Look forward to that. And as ever, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, or don't if you don't want to. It's perfectly fine. And I'll see you next week, and goodbye.